One of the things that'll often come across your desk is invitations to conferences. They'll say, we've got the top speakers, the top minds in this field coming, you can't afford to miss it. And it'll say at the bottom, who should attend, and of course, they've got virtually every profession on the planet listed to ensure that they capture as many people as possible. Often these conferences and expos, conventions, seminars, they're priced conveniently at $2,995 US, which immediately should signal to you that this is not a cost plus type price, but a value-based price. Question, Simon. I know that you like to get your business leads from conferences. Is it really worth your time and your money to be out of the office for half a day or a full day, maybe even travel somewhere, in order to attend conferences and seminars?
Well, I mean, I attend them, although less and less, and I sometimes am persuaded to do papers or even chair them. My observation would be that on most occasions, if you are trying to sell a service, that you do not have the right people in the room. Because the fact of the matter is that senior C-level executives who have the power to make significant buying decisions do not have the time to go and sit in a conference for half a day or a day. So the pure dynamic of the thing tells you that you're very unlikely to be sitting in a room with a bunch of people who are actually able to exercise decisions. And my experience, and I've been in this part of the world for about 20 years now, at the very beginning when I was young and enthusiastic and enjoyed having my name in lights, is I would go to a lot of these things, and about 11 o'clock, everyone would go for a break, and only about a third of as many people would actually come back because they were from out of town, and actually they were mainly here for the shopping. So they'd show up for the morning session and head off to Orchard Road, and then maybe show up again at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You know? Right. So yes, I mean, I do get some leads from conferences, but I'm very, very picky because and there are actually some interesting conference formats, because there are some quite different ones, but. There are so many companies competing to provide conferences, and the model primarily makes them money, not anybody else, in my view.
Which is just the problem, because obviously if you're going to decide whether to fly to that conference or spend the money as a delegate, you want to get a return on the investment. Let's assume that you do want to go, because the information being talked about is decent, or they've kind of baited you by inviting you to chair a session or even be a so-called expert on one of the panels. What return on the investment could you get, even if it isn't a new lead, a new contract?
Well, there's always, I mean, you know, peer groups are interesting. Intellectual property is always interesting. But to your point, I mean, if I'm going to fly somewhere and work and provide, you know, the fruits of my endeavour, I mean, however uncompelling, I would expect to be remunerated at least for my costs. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't do that. I would not recommend doing that for free unless you're retired.
But people do that all the time because they want to build their profile. Meet people.
But does it work?
Attend the conference for free. Save the $2,995.
Does it build your profile? Do you really believe that?
Well, I'm asking you that question.
Well, I mean, if you're being invited by the United Nations to address them on the subject of world hunger, then probably that will build your profile. But if you're being invited by, you know, Acme conferences, you know, of Java to go and opine on, you know, traffic beacons in Kalimantan, then you might find that your profile is not enhanced hugely. You might get a mention in the East Kalimantan Gazette, you know, on page 17. I suppose it depends on the dynamics. I mean, I was briefly. I mean,
how do you come up with this stuff?
Well, I was briefly.
Or was this actually a real case?
No. I will tell you.
Did you attend that?
I tell you the zenith of my conference career is this, and I mean, I'm still not sure whether they mistook me for somebody else. I was invited.
The other Simon Littlewood.
Well, there is another Simon Littlewood. There's a Simon Littlewood who's head of CEO, who's head of what the hell is he? But something Capital Asia. Anyway, he was a big investor in China.
One's enough.
My cousin, the other Simon Littlewood, and so I got invited to go to Sri Lanka to be the keynote speaker at the CIMA conference, which is their biggest conference.
CIMA.
CIMA. This is the Chartered Institute of Management, something or others. Right. Very big there. And the convention centre is this huge hall built by Chairman Mao when the communists were putting money into Sri Lanka.
In Sri Lanka,
they're
right.
big friends. Yeah. And the speaker the previous year had been Mahathir Mohamad, so I felt sort of honoured, you know. So they flew me there, business class, put me in a hotel, sent a limo for me. I was sharing the podium with American ambassadors and various other characters. And as we got out of the limousine, maidens threw rose petals on the pavement as they walked backwards. and bands played and photographers, you know, and it was in all the papers, and you know, but. it surprised me because there were like five.
Didn't get you a single job, though.
It didn't get me a single job. There were about 5,000 people in the room. And it got massive media coverage. I mean, at the end of the day, because clearly not a lot goes on in Sri Lanka.
You call this the zenith of your career.
Well,
but having
because
said
that's
that,
the only time I've had maidens throw rose petals in front of me, unless you've laid something on today for me, Mark.
rose petals.
Yeah.
No.
No, you haven't thought of that?
No, we'll have you out on your ear in no time.
What does that mean? So I enjoyed that. I mean, that was nice. And there was still a civil war going on then. There'd been an outrage in Colombo just the day before, so I guess there weren't too many people willing to go there, But I don't get too many invitations, and they paid me too, so it's, it was win-win, really.
Right.